Ready to go. We are, I believe we are live right now.
All
Let me
right.
check to see if we're live. I got another computer over here. What it do, Jive Turkeys, and welcome back to the Controversy. I'm your host, Ian Elliott-Carter, and this to the left of me is the most beautiful gal in the world, Tatiana Wilson. And we are up. And this, no, you're not watching the Brady Bunch with black people. This is a couple of my friends that joined us on the live stream. This is the first collaboration live stream I've done, and I had to do an experiment. And who else to do this with? With one, somebody I collaborate with all the time, Jeremy from Movies Are Terrible. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, buddy? Glad to have you. Glad to have you. I'm so used
Thank
to doing the other
Let the
one, right?
white man to take over. Wow, glad to have you on my
be
show. Wow.
here. That's what I was trying to say. Glad to be here to talk with Toddy and Alex.
Glad you're here, bro. And
Yeah.
I gotta give a special introduction to this guy right here, because this right here, I would not be doing YouTube right now. I would not be doing podcasting, all that stuff, if it wasn't for this guy right here. This is, I guess, my left. This is Alex. Alex, he is from my hometown, Panama City, and when I decided I wanted to do a podcast and a show, he was one of the people that motivated me to do it. And if you look on some of my old stuff, like my first videos, you will see this guy. He's gained a little bit of weight, but you will see this guy. And we talked a lot about mental health. We talked a lot about like current events and stuff like that. And glad to have him back after about 3 years, man. Alex, thank you for joining us on the first live stream with guests.
I'm just glad to see some things haven't changed, Ian. You're still very long-winded.
Yeah, it's true. And I don't know if I should say thank you or fuck you, Alex, for getting Ian into making content, because
I just want to say first and foremost, like Ian would have figured it out one way or another. I just was kind of a push.
Okay.
Gosh,
An enabler, if you will. You know I don't do well with compliments.
He really doesn't. No, he did enable me, man. You know, he just do it. And he came every week. We had a show, and we came. We had that. It kind of looked like the Joe Rogan / Joe Budden podcast a little bit. We had people just having conversations.
That's cool.
But ours was better. But yeah, he was a part of this evolution.
Helped you vet guests on your show. You remember the one guy in Starbucks?
Yo, yes.
One that we always talk about. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to shout him out. But
so yeah. Jeremy, let me fill you in. So we were trying to get people on my show. Like, this is before I met you. I was trying to get guests on my show, and there's this dude. He was a fan of my page, and Alex kind of knew him. He didn't know him that well. And so we met up at Starbucks to get to know this guy, and boy, was he off.
For the record, I met him 2 or 3 hours before we met up at Starbucks. Like, he sent me a friend request and was like, "Hey man, I want to be on the show." And so I was like, "Here's Ian." Yeah.
So
did you get him on the show, or did y'all end it there?
Oh no, it was a hard pass.
It was a very hard pass. But after he left, I was like, "Alex, who the fuck was this guy?"
Yo, give me some details, man. What did he do that was so sketchy?
Within the first 20 minutes we started talking to him, he was what was he? He said something about his wife was terminally ill or something, and he was
talking about cheating on his wife and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then he was
too real.
Very personal for someone that you just met.
Exactly. And then he had some very extreme views that none of us tended to align with. So
sure.
We realized real quick this guy was going to be a firestorm if we let him on the show.
Oh, for sure. It would have been like Alex Jones telling us that the frogs are turning gay.
For sure.
Yeah, we were avoiding that one. I want to say what's up to the Silver Side. Thank you for coming through, brother. Heard you just did a debate with Jeremy over there at Momentum Media.
Yo, I don't want to bury the lead, but he came in hot, dude. Reggie is he's a debater.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, man. I can't wait to see this. They debated The Boys versus Lovecraft Country, so I can't wait to see this. Both good shows. I prefer The Boys.
Sounds like a really good debate.
Alex, what is the show that you've been watching? Sorry?
Shameless is a show that I've been watching pretty consistently. One of my friends got me into it, and it's I'd always kind of been culturally aware of it, and then it's wonderful. But it's good because it also deals with like mental health and stuff too, to some extent. So
Absolutely. Toddy's a fan of that show.
I'm not consistent.
I
with
love
it.
it.
But I like it.
Okay. So yeah, I just got done with The Boys. I'm looking for something to watch. All right, let's see here. I did Monster. What are you doing? Okay, I meant to hit this one. Shout out to Frank. Alex, screw you. And I know,
In the chat.
that's an inside joke. I fumbled a name one time during a debate, and they won't let me. They just won't shut up about it. All right, well, bullying. Jeremy, what have you been watching?
You get famous, Ian.
Exactly. Jeremy, what you been watching lately?
So I just finished The Boys season 2. It is fantastic. I'm a big fan of that show. I haven't seen any of Shameless, but Victoria likes it a lot. I don't think she's watched it from beginning to end, similar to what Toddy was saying. She just kind of casually. Are you caught up?
Yeah.
Oh, Alex is caught up.
I am. I think I've got like 5 or 6 episodes left in the 10th season, whatever the 9th or
10 seasons.
Yeah,
almost. Yeah,
that's a lot. That's why I'm not up with it.
but it's a Showtime show, so they're only like 9 or 10 episode seasons.
Oh, okay. Speaking of Showtime,
One of BBC like 37 episodes a season.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess that's an easier watch, like Curb Your Enthusiasm, like
Still
The Boys.
100 episodes.
Still 100 episodes, but like, I mean, if it's like 8 episodes a season, but
Yeah.
But what was I about to say? We just got done with The Boys 2, season 2 as well. So I was hearing that show Utopia is pretty good. So I was thinking about checking that one out next.
I was gonna say I started watching that the other night, and that's a wild.
Oh, nice.
So I heard that Utopia is like ahead of its time. It's like a show that's talking about like pandemics and conspiracies, and it was shot way before 2008 or 2020. Why did I say 2008? I'm living in the past.
You were born, bro.
I would love to go back to 2008. Such a simpler time.
When you were just a twinkle in your mama's eye.
Oh,
I was gonna say when you were like 6 years old.
Oh yeah, okay. I was 19 back then, unlike you old farts that were just getting your social security.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
Where's my water hose when I need it?
Hell yeah. So okay, so Reggie said he liked the Utopia. So I think that's gonna be the new show that I'm watching. I'm gonna check out. We do still have to finish Lovecraft. We're on like episode 6 or 7, I think. I don't remember. I was not a big fan of Lovecraft until we got to episode 5, and then I'm like, okay, I'm all in.
Number 9's a showstopper, dude. Number 9 is fantastic. You know what I just now picked back up yesterday? The Walking Dead, right? I don't know how caught up you guys are, if you ever even watched it, but I knew that Glenn died, and it made me stop watching the show. I knew that Negan beat Glenn and Abraham to death in the first episode of season 7, so I just kind of stopped watching because Glenn was my dude. So I started back up there, and it's really good. That's why I watched it for years. So I'm trying to catch up now, but
oh, for sure.
Hard.
Yeah. That was one I was just like, I think I gave up because I was like, is this wrapping up anytime soon?
Yeah, it might never.
Well, they go through like real peaks and valleys with Walking Dead. Like Negan re-infused that show a lot, and then it kind of tapers off a couple of seasons later. But
right. Okay, I want to read this comment real quick. You guys should check out Inspirational Philosophy. He is a very smart Christian YouTuber. His content urges for God's existence and Christianity. I really recommend you give him a watch. He's built a difference. So, okay, so interesting enough, me and Alex actually met at a church. We're former Christians. I do still believe in God. I don't know what everybody else's belief is. I don't judge what it is or what it isn't. But I do like hearing perspectives of people of different religions, because at the end of the day, I'm still trying to figure it out. I think the concept of like faith and spirituality is great, and it's just whenever you bring in the rules and regulations is when I'm out. What's y'all's thoughts on that?
Oh, for sure. Like I was gonna say, you know where I fall. Like I did ministry for a good long time, and you and I met. Well, we reconnected a couple years after I got out of ministry full time.
Right.
So I follow a lot of where you do, where like I believe there's a higher power and whatnot, but it's the religious interpretations sometimes I think are more damaging than they're worth more times.
100%. What's your thoughts, Jeremy?
It's interesting. There's been a cultural shift away from like in the post 9/11. early 2000s, there was a revival, right? Here in the area in particular, Panama City, Pensacola, all of that. We're in kind of the Bible Belt, and there's a lot of big mega churches and all that stuff around here. There was one called Brownsville up the road from here that was like a Pentecostal, very hardcore church. So there was a lot of very militant Christians, I think, at that time. However, it also kind of opened the door for, you know, the skater kids with tattoos that smoked weed and then they find God and they became born again. I knew a lot of people that became born again at that early era. And a lot of those people I found have kind of moved to a more spiritually enlightened place where it's not about Christianity versus Judaism or
for sure
Islam or whatever. It's more just like, you know, having a higher power gives you a higher purpose. It gives you something bigger than yourself to focus on. My personal religious views, I don't know. I think I'm an atheist. I mean, I'm an atheist, but I would like to think that there was some sort of reason for all of this other than just cosmic circumstance. But I understand the value of religion. I know that it can be dangerous on the macro, but for people's lives, it's really important. I've seen it move mountains as far as people who had substance abuse problems and were able to kind of find God and take a different path. So I think it's great for some people. I also think, like kind of what you guys were saying, like institutionalized religion can be dangerous and can otherize people that aren't the same as you and all of those kind of things I'm not about.
So you sound like you're an atheist and looking. Sounds like you're like you were just like on a dating app. I'm an atheist and looking for a religion.
Yeah.
Whatever tickles my pickle. Okay, we got a comment from Reggie right here. It says, I was a youth leader since the age of 14. Left the church between 2015 and 16. My turning point was when I worked at a Christian bookstore with the worst reps for Christianity. Yeah, the Christian. I saw this meme today that said Christians show their love in a very hateful way.
Can be valid.
Yeah, all lives matter stuff. God loves you. Now all lives matter. You know that that mindset.
Absolutely.
Not if you're gay.
And not if you're gay, of course. But I don't want to. Of course, I don't want to like talk about all Christians because I know a lot of Christians that do not have that mindset. Jefferson Bethke's one. If you follow this guy, he's really good.
Yeah, he's good.
Well, and like you look at there's, like you were saying, Jeremy, I think there's a shift towards less traditionalism, maybe that like me and Ian grew up with, to where more people are asking a lot more questions of like why and what, versus like the generation before me was just always like, no, that's what we do. Like that's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
Whereas like especially the millennial generation is like, yeah, but why do we do that? Like
it's a really good point.
Yeah.
And so there's definitely a search for like meaning and purpose within the spiritual framework. But I like what you said, that a lot of people with like substance abuse or even like people that don't really have a whole lot of purpose for their life tend to find that in Christianity, which I think at its core is the best part.
Yeah.
And then start getting people that like they want to draw lines in the sand and say like what's right, what's wrong, what's sin, what's not sin. And that's where you get the most damaging parts of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, King of the Hills 34 in there. What's up, dude?
What's happening, King of the Hill, man? Always coming through, man. And you've known Jefferson for a good minute. What I love about Jefferson, I've read both of his books. I love his philosophy about I love Jesus and not religion. Like, even if you're not a Christian or a believer, like the teachings of Jesus Christ, they're radical and they are extreme and they are all about the love. And like
a little socialisty, if you ask me.
100%.
I kind of love it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he would definitely not survive in our world right now. If
I remember somebody saying like someone brought up a point that Jesus would look a lot more like Osama bin Laden than he would like the feathered hair, blue eye guy that's in a lot of churches.
Oh yeah, he doesn't look like, what's the dude that Jared Leto? He doesn't look like Jared Leto. He looks
Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's who you're thinking of?
Yeah.
All right, let's I got two topics before we get to our main event, man. So me and Jeremy basically talked about this on Alex's show, but have you guys heard the Spider-Man rumors? There's going to be a possible Spider-Verse with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and of course my favorite Spider-Man, Tom Holland, all in one movie. That's the theories. It's not confirmed. What are your thoughts on that, guys? We'll start with Alex.
Well, they started that rumor when they brought Jamie Foxx back into the mix. So people, well, really, when they brought J. Jonah Jameson back in, that was kind of like
That's
a
when
nod.
the doors are open. Yep.
Exactly. That was a kind of like a fan service, but then it opened up all these ideas. And then you have like Doctor Strange in the multiverse, and so there's all kinds of ideas of what they're going to be doing. And I read something yesterday that they're talking about bringing, I forget who the actor is, but they're talking about bringing in someone to play Miles Morales in the next movie. So, which is not confirmed, but they've already laid the groundwork with that to have his uncle there.
Yeah, for sure. So I kind of know what Jeremy's thoughts are on this, but go ahead. What are your thoughts, brother?
I guess you didn't read my writer before I got on the show. I only talk about each topic one time on one channel, and that's it, dude. So just move along. No, I'm just kidding. I don't like it, Ian. I know you know that about me. I'm not a big fan of the multiverse. I think the multiverse is lame because I feel like it gives writers a get out of jail free card, and they're already doing it with Into the Spider-Verse, which is great. Probably my favorite Spider-Man story. You know, I thought that movie was exceptional. And I think that multiverse concept works fantastically in animated form. It gave us an opportunity to see all these different Spider-Men together in one movie. And that was great for me. I'm good. I don't want DC, Warner Brothers to do a multiverse and Marvel to do a multiverse and then Sony to do a multiverse. I'm good on that concept because this is my big thing about it.
I agree, Alex. Sorry,
there's
Alex
all these.
Hampton.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's Miles Morales is a great character, but in the multiverse theory, there's all of these different Silver Sight notes. There's all of these different possibilities, right? Where if you want a character to come back from the dead, all you got to do is go over to the other multiverse, grab them, bring them back through the portal. Now there's no stakes in death. You know, that's one of the big criticisms that people have always had with Marvel is they don't commit to it and give you emotional stakes. And I feel like with the multiverse, if things don't happen perfectly in this version of events in this timeline, then you can assume that everything went perfectly in some other timeline. So like nothing matters. I just don't feel like I don't know, man. I don't like the fact that they have so much freedom to do whatever they want in the multiverse.
Well, and like from a consumer standpoint, like there's a reason like the Tobey Maguire franchise didn't get another sequel after Spider-Man 3. There's a reason Andrew Garfield's franchise didn't get another one. So, like, throwing all of these guys into the mix, I mean, it's just one big fan service, really. And it gets real convoluted real quick when you start having 3 different versions of Spider-Man plus a Miles Morales. And then, like you said, you just jump into Earth whatever and get whatever character you want back, and so there's no stakes. So I agree with you, Jeremy.
Well, I do want to see a conclusion to those stories. We didn't get a conclusion to those stories, and of course they were great. I mean, in their own, I didn't like the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but I didn't hate Andrew Garfield. Toddy,
before you go to Toddy, are you a fan of Spider-Man 3?
No, but I do like Spider-Man 3 better than both Amazing Spider-Mans. I'll say that.
Wow.
I will say that.
Right.
Spider-Man 1 and 2 are great, and I'm with Jeremy when he says the Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movies, and I love the new Spider-Man movies better than all of them. But
that's the perfect way to do the multiverse is through Into the Spider-Verse.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think I basically agree. I think it's just like if you do that, then there's no rules, like Jeremy was saying, and that makes it kind of boring. And
Reggie's stupid, yo. Go ahead.
But I would rather see them just continue to do that with Into the Spider-Verse. Like, I don't really need to like see it like in live action. Like, I don't have a desire for that. Rather than just kind of keep going with what they're doing. So,
I understand that criticism, man. I just think like, what is the point of introducing all these? And same with Batman. What is the point of having all these and then having stories with people from different universes? Like we got the Vulture being in this Morbius movie. We have J. Jonah Jameson in a different universe. Like, what is the point of doing all this if you're not going to do anything with it? So That's my thing. And like I said, I would like to see a conclusion to these other ones because they kind of got the short end of the stick because of the studios, not their faults. But I'm intrigued. I'm not like this old fart that just doesn't want to give it a shot.
So wait, hold up though. If you've got, if you want endings from these 3 different Spider-Man franchises, are you going to get what you want out of one movie? I mean, if we learned anything from Spider-Man 3, it's that trying to cram too many characters into one movie can lead to unsatisfying results.
I would have agreed with you until I saw Into the Spider-Verse.
Sure.
Well, that's what Amazing Spider-Man 2 did. Is it crammed too many storylines and too many characters. I mean, it made the same Spider-Man 3 mistake. So I think you mess around with the third Tom Holland movie, and you end up having so many moving parts. Or you get like, let me balance and say, like, I love Endgame, but you get all of these promises of like all of these people are going to be featured, and they've got like 5 minutes here, 2 minutes here. So.
You bring up a good point, then I'm going to say that we'll make it work. Endgame worked, and so did Infinity War worked because they had established these characters. So you didn't really have to build up anything because you already knew their motive and point of views. You knew what Thor was thinking at times. You knew what Iron Man was. With this Spider-Man, yeah, you understand. You know Tobey Maguire. You know Andrew Garfield. You know villains. So I think that's one way it could work a little bit more than like the Sam Raimi one, where we're like, we don't know this Venom. We don't know this Sandman. We just met him. So.
That's a good point.
For sure.
For sure. Let's see what else we got in the comment.
Abbott B in the chat, I saw.
Okay, well, we got Abbott. Okay, Spider-Man 2 was so many good moments. It could have been good. Yeah, but the writing sucked, man. I mean, I agree. I didn't hate Andrew Garfield's interpretation of him. I just thought he was too cool of a Peter Parker. His Spider-Man was pretty good.
His Spider-Man suit was so much better in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 than it was in The Amazing Spider-Man. It was like some weird bike spandex in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah.
Scales. That shit was weird looking, dude.
And
Emma Stone helped carry that whole franchise. Like, she's the reason, like,
Emma Stone touches is gold. Emma Stone's one of the best actresses, like, of our generation. Alex says, hey, Ian is tripping. Spider-Man 3 is not better than Andrew Garfield's movies. Yeah, well,
I gotta agree with him on that.
I think there will be both Spider-Man 3, Doctor Strange. So Doctor Strange is not only going to be in Spider-Man, but he's also going to he's going to be intertwined with like the story of Scarlet Witch. So do you think like all of this next phase is going to be multiverse stuff, and he's just going to be leading the pack of this, trying to figure out what's going on?
I hope not. I feel like the multiverse is a cool little like gimmick, but if you try to build an entire phase of movies off of that, I feel like you're going to lose your audience real quick.
Right on, man.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate fact of the matter is once that cat's out of the bag, there's no going back. Once you open up the portals to infinite possibilities, there's no closing that down again and slowing down the. And I don't know, maybe. I don't
opened. They opened it in Endgame.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And dude, that's why I've been, and we've talked about this before. We've both had the conversation. Is Marvel still going to be able to continue to climb upwards, or is their trajectory going to be slightly downslope now because they built to this beautiful crescendo? I mean, what they accomplished with the Infinity Saga is the most impressive cinematic feat ever committed to film. I will go so far as to say it's the most impressive feat of filmmaking ever. And at this point, where do you go after Thanos, man? People are like Galactus. Yeah, I guess, but Galactus wasn't the same. Like,
I like this Kang the Conqueror rumor that's going around. I think
I heard that
he's tied in.
He works really well with the time travel. Yeah.
Yep.
The big elephant in the room, though, is like moving forward. How do you keep the MCU alive without your heavy hitters like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Scarlett Johansson? Or especially, I don't want to sound misogynistic, but like Captain America and Iron Man carried that franchise with like Thor. And so moving forward, what characters do you have that can kind of step in and fill that role?
I would have
Hold
said
up. What's the sexist part of that statement?
that. I was waiting for it. I was like,
I don't want to sound like I'm minimizing Scarlett Johansson's role in the
Oh,
MCU.
Oh, heard.
I was going to say, he said sexist and mentioned all guys. I was like, what? Okay.
Better job at introducing more characters that also like are played by bigger names, so that way when this happened, they wouldn't have this issue.
Yeah. And what
Point.
you were saying too about like I felt like Tom Holland and like Chadwick Boseman were going to be the ones holding Marvel,
Sure.
but obviously what happened to Chadwick is unprecedented. But what you were kind of saying too is kind of like what they did with Wolverine. Nobody knew who Hugh Jackman was when the X-Men movie came out. So I would love for them to go with a bunch of unknowns and make Hugh Jackmans out of these new people. So I mean that's
kind of doing that with Tom Holland, right?
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
can-
well, it was Hugh Jackman
I feel
pretty
like
much.
They can't do it.
You're right.
They
I didn't.
I don't feel like they thought ahead enough about it. to
I
make
think
it.
well, Marvel does think ahead. Marvel
But
thinks so.
we're literally asking ourselves who's carrying it because we don't know.
Well, you're
That's
right.
what I'm saying. Like they
It
should
might-
have thought more ahead about.
It might be
that.
Tom Holland and Doctor
Well,
Strange.
I know once upon a time the rumors were that like Tom Holland was going to step in and take the Iron Man role and be like the central figure, and then they brought in Captain Marvel, and she was going to kind of offset like the more mentor side for him. But yeah, no, I agree with Toddy. Is like at the end of the day, like without Chadwick Boseman, I don't really see any super heavy hitters other than like Chris Hemsworth, but he's kind of been relegated more to like the comedic side of things than like leading man or like leader of the Avengers or however you want to describe it.
Well, me and her actually had a conversation about Chris Hemsworth on one of these live streams. We
yeah, you
said,
talked about his dick. I remember.
yeah, no, that was Chris Evans.
Yeah, that's right. My bad.
Oh yeah, that's because he flashed himself on IG.
Yeah. So Chris Hemsworth actually has potential to be the next like Robert Downey Jr. He doesn't have to lead the franchise, but like since Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. are gone, he has the negotiations right now because he's literally could be the face. Like he's the biggest name in that franchise right now. He could ask for Robert Downey Jr. money if he wants.
Well, and he's a hell of a dramatic actor when he wants to be. Like
Absolutely.
like there's a few movies out there where he just like he brings the fire. And so I think they've put him in a good position with Thor not having to lead Asgard to where he can be a little bit more fluid as far as where he is in the universe. But I think that would be interesting to see him take a little bit more of a leading role.
And he said he's not going. Chris Hemsworth actually said he's not going anywhere anytime soon. So we'll see.
I see him being the Hugh Jackman that plays a character for like 18, 19 years.
Yeah, old man Thor. I'm here for that.
I mean, we've seen.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
See
for
Fat
sure.
Thor. We got to see old man Thor. Let's see what Abbas says. Also, the new characters issue Iron Man and Captain America were not popular, but I see where he's going with this. And they made Iron Man and Captain America and X-Men and Spider-Man were popular now. Maybe it's time to change back. I like the theory because we got Chang Li. Is it Chang Li? Shang-Chi. We got the Eternals. I know nothing about those guys. I knew nothing about the Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's one of my favorite movies ever. So I'm all for the unknowns doing their things and the less popular.
That's one of the beautiful things about Marvel is like even going back to the Spider-Verse stuff, like I don't really know how all of that would work, but I can look at Marvel's past, and they brought some heavy hitters out of relatively unknown franchises. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy were a super long shot that nobody had heard of, and now it's one of the top grossing franchises in the MCU. So I think if Marvel's got the potential to be able to do it right, especially now that they've got.
Go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
No, just the fact that they've got the X-Men back and they've got the Fantastic Four back. So there's a lot of stuff that they can do that they weren't able to do in phase 1 through 4 or whatever.
Yeah, touching on what Abbas just now said, and I think it's a really valid point. At the time that they turned Captain America and Iron Man into household names, Spider-Man and the X-Men were the most popular Marvel catalog characters. As you remember, Marvel had Spider-Man over at Sony, X-Men over at Fox. Now all of these can come back together. So maybe the idea is to start going in the direction of building out the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. But as Ian and I have discussed before, and as some of you guys in the comment section may have heard me say, I just feel like the thing that makes X-Men work thematically is all of the allusions to and parallels to real life oppression, like whether
For
it's
sure.
an allegory for homosexuality, whether it's an allegory for race, gender, whatever the different thing is. When you put those characters into a world where Hulk and Drax and Mantis and Rocket exist, what makes one of those groups persecuted and oppressed and the superheroes are accepted by all of society? That's where I feel like it gets a little bit difficult to navigate, is like mutants historically have been oppressed, but when you look at Professor X, he doesn't look more like a mutant than Hulk does. So what would be the thing that makes one of them get oppressed and not the other? That's why I think it's going to be a very difficult task to fit the X-Men into this universe, but maybe Marvel won't lean into the allegorical side of it, which I feel like would be a real missed opportunity. So I don't know.
They got to definitely upgrade the
climate
story
that we're in right now.
Yeah, the climate, like I was just about to say, they can't go. They're not going to go back to World War II. Like it'd be impossible. Like so they got to upgrade it. Like maybe a Rwanda situation that happened in the 90s.
Interesting.
And stuff like that. They got to just upgrade the story. But like Alex just said, they got so much to work with, especially in our climate right now. Like, just pick something. There's a lot of oppression going on. Real quick, before we go to the next subject, Alex and other people were bringing up Captain Marvel. I love Brie Larson. I just think her character needs to be written a little bit better. She's got a new director, so maybe that will help. But I do think that they were hinting that she would be one of the people leading the next MCU or the next phases. So we'll see. She just needs better writing. I want to get to the next subject before we get to the main one. Is Gal Gadot is casted as Cleopatra. As black as she is, I felt it was a great choice. What about you guys?
Well, I want to say, and I might be speaking out of turn because I wasn't around back then, but I'm pretty.
Get your cancel buttons ready, guys.
I'm pretty sure Cleopatra was Greek or Roman, and actually
Egyptian.
No, yeah, she was Egyptian.
She ruled Egypt. No, well, she ruled Egypt, but she's actually not from Egypt.
Okay.
I didn't know. Maybe she is. I didn't
Macedonian and Greek, yeah. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't like the whole calling an actor or an actress out for not being the role that they play. I mean, apparently this is a controversial stance now, but I don't think you have to be gay to play a gay character. I just don't. I don't think you have to be straight to play a straight character because that would suck for half of the actors in Hollywood. You know what I'm saying?
If you're a man willing to kick another man, you got the role, in my opinion.
I don't know, man. I just like with Scarlett Johansson. Let's look at that specific conversation where she was going to play a transgender character. And then they were like, well, representation matters. Well, like John Campea did a whole big thing about it that I kind of agreed. It's like, if you want to bring attention and acceptance and mainstream appeal to stories about transgender people, you attach a really big name to it to bring attention to this story. It opens up a dialogue and a conversation, and now all of a sudden we can talk about it.
No, I agree with that too. I got his point of view of that. I do agree with that.
So it's different in this situation. I just don't like it when it happens on Twitter all the time, and I don't know if it's news, but a person will be like, "Oh, that skinny bitch can't play Wonder Woman." How many times has Gal Gadot got shit already? You know what I mean? Like, give the woman a break. Exactly. Just trying to do her thing. That's my take.
Yeah, like people rioted when she got cast as Wonder Woman, and I think she's one of the staples that's holding the DC extended universe together. Like, she's one of the bright spots in that. So I tend to agree with you, Jeremy, that I think she'll be fine playing Cleopatra. On top of the fact, Gal Gadot is an incredible actress. Like, she's very fluid as far as like roles that she can move in and out of. So
I think after Wonder Woman, she proved that she was a good actress. Before that, I would have probably disagreed. Like when I saw her in Fast and Furious, I was like, really? She's going to be Wonder Woman? Boy, was I wrong. She killed that role, and everything after that, she's been on her shit. She's a really good actress.
I still maintain that she's one of the best parts of the later Fast and the Furious movies too.
Yeah, well, tomato. You agree to disagree.
I mean, let's be fair. The Fast and the Furious movies aren't great. They're
After five,
bad.
I just threw my brain out and just kept watching. I was
Absolutely.
like, all right.
They should have just ended it with 5 and called it a day.
5 was my favorite. What's y'all's favorite?
5
Man,
is definitely my favorite.
You know my take on it, Ian. Paul Walker dying is the best thing that happened to the Fast and Furious franchise. See you guys later. Episode or
It was 7. It was 7 though.
7.
I'm not gonna agree with him dying being the best thing for it, but I will agree. Like that send off,
yes,
amazing.
yes.
That's probably where they should have
sure.
ended it.
I
It's
said
very
it the
emotional.
worst way possible, but the truth of the matter is, it's the only Fast and Furious movie that had an emotional impact on me. That farewell scene at the end, that hits. You know what I mean? And nothing else in the franchise has ever made me feel anything but bored. So, I mean, passing amusement, I guess. Like I like Hobbs and Shaw, all right. But then it just kept on going. And I'm like, all right, this has got to be the last set piece. This has got to be the last set piece. And then all of a sudden we're like on the islands in Samoa. And there's like this big like battle going on where people with guns.
And like you said, with no stakes, like Letty dies and comes back. And now from what we're led to believe, Han is back. And so like,
yeah,
It's a Marvel movie.
Territory where, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So, I mean, I was a staunch supporter of the Fast and the Furious movies for years, but like everything 6 and on to me is bad. Is real bad.
Yeah.
Like when The Rock slings a bag of grenades to a helicopter, and then like,
Amazing.
but it makes a lot more sense if you understand like the way the directors for the Fast and the Furious are made or chosen. Are they get to plot out the most ridiculous action scene, and whoever like they like the best, they choose that director, and then they do that action scene. So like again, The Rock harpooning a helicopter and reeling it in. I mean,
Yeah.
You remember when he busted out of the
Hobbs
cab?
and Shaw is basically a parody of the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Oh, it is. You remember when he busted out of the cast and went, Daddy's got to go to work.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's Shakespeare right there.
Yeah.
And can we just acknowledge for a moment that with Hobbs and Shaw, Kevin Hart, Ryan Reynolds, all of those guys are in the Fast and the Furious universe. So I would love to see Ryan Reynolds just shake it up with like Vin Diesel, just to see that dynamic.
Those 3 right there are the best personality in Hollywood. So that would be like the funniest, best guy ever movie. Like they're just such gentlemen and nice guys. I don't really have much opinions on Mission Impossible. I've like watched through them randomly. What are your opinions on the Mission Impossible movies?
I'm a big fan. I like them a lot, dude. I feel like they're the best vehicle for Tom Cruise's crazy ass. Like his whole thing of jumping out of planes and all of that. It's a perfect vehicle to show that Tom Cruise is the craziest actor in Hollywood, and the stunts are fantastic.
You gotta respect, that he does his own stunts at his age too. I mean, regardless of the movie, like him doing all that, the movie could be about the dumbest shit ever. But if he's doing his own stunts, I'll watch that.
It's basically the movie over and over again. But
let's be honest, the Mission Impossible movies are just the Fast and the Furious movies for Tom Cruise. Like it's him just saying, hey, what's the most ridiculous stunt I can do? I'm going to climb up the side of a building, or I'm going to jump from helicopter to helicopter. Like at this point, it's just a way for Tom Cruise to stroke his own ego and say, hey, look what I can still do.
That's fair. That's fair.
Let's start a petition.
At his age.
Yeah, at his age. Like,
especially at his age. I mean, I'll give it to it. It's ridiculous that he can still do the things that he does. But, I mean, they're just action movies without any kind of like story or anything like that at this point.
Let's start a petition to get him in the Fast and Furious movies. He'll probably die. They're like, hey, we're gonna jump this mountain and roll down. And Tom's like, I'm gonna do that for real. Like, no, we actually do CGI. No, I am Tom Cruise. I'm gonna do that for real. Tom, you're going to die.
That's what Fast 9 should be, is a crossover between Fast and the Furious and Mission Impossible.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be dope. We'll see who's really about that life.
Well, I mean, they're going into space allegedly, so I mean, what else we got?
Yeah. All about family. That's their senzu bean, man. Family. All right, let's get to the main topic today. The main topic is about mental health. So Alex is a mental advocate of mental health. He's done books. He's read books about mental health. I don't mean to say it like that. That's so weird. He's read books, so he's a professional.
I got many leather-bound books on mental health in my house.
So he's an advocate. He helps other people out, when they're going through times, and of course stuff like that. Alex, do you want to tell us the things that you do when it comes to your connection to mental health before we get to this subject?
I mean, so for anyone that has watched your show or followed it for a while, back when I was on it kind of regularly, like we talked about it a lot. And for me, mental health is it's core to me because I have my own mental health struggles. I'm just a cocktail of different mental illnesses. And again, going back to like being raised in the church, the church didn't know what to do with mental health for a lot of years. So a lot of things that are like depression and anxiety end up being mislabeled as, oh, you don't trust Jesus enough, or you just need to be more grateful. So for me, like mental health is a big issue, and if I can help people not feel alone in their thoughts, or at least help them kind of be able to put words to how they feel, that's a huge thing for me. So
Absolutely, and that's very relatable. Like growing up in the church as well. Can you relate a little bit to that, Jeremy?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alex, even just addressing it feels a little bit taboo sometimes. There's still a huge stigma around mental health. Like people love to have the general conversation about mental health, but when it comes down to like, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have bipolar disorder, then all of a sudden people's perception of you can potentially change. And I think that the most important thing about these conversations is just simply destigmatizing it. My parents were not ardent practices of religion, but my dad was very much the kind of person that's like, either you're a good person or you're a bad person. Either you are, so if there were times that, like childhood times that somebody would act out and there might have been an underlying cause behind it, that was never really viewed as a viable solution, right? Like, I'm trying to think of a good way to articulate it, but basically that you can be flawed and you can have elements of yourself that, don't have to define you, I guess. So for me, and I did a podcast called Better Than Yesterday Every Day over with Matt Lane on BTYE, the YouTube channel. And we talked a lot about this. And I think just the most important thing is just rock it. Like if you do have a diagnosis, just rock it, own it, still be who you are. And that I think will help society as a whole a lot more, because there's a lot of people that need help that are ashamed because they don't want to acknowledge or admit that they might not have control over an element of themselves, how they feel, how they present themselves. And that can be a scary thing to be like, I can't do this on my own. And I think that everybody should have somebody to talk to, whether it's counselor that's a professional, whether it's actual therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist that you have, just to be able to work through things objectively, because we will confirm our own biases and we will normalize our own bullshit. And you got to have people around that will check you and kind of ground you and bring you back to reality from an objective place, just so that we don't get super caught up in our own heads. So, if you are struggling with mental illness, just know, like, it's not the end of the world. Lots of people can relate with that and understand that. And just, if you're struggling, lean on support, find somebody to talk to. I think that's the most important thing.
Dude, you just took us to church, man. That's real talk. I can definitely relate to, I have my own personal mental health issues. I was diagnosed with PTSD as an 8-year-old after my father died. A lot of people think that's just for soldiers, but that's, a lot of people get that nowadays.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. Do you think that mental health in recent years, as vocal as it is and everybody's becoming more and more like free to talk about it, do you also think it's become more of a profitable thing, like made for like commercial use in evil ways.
To an extent, yeah, I do. I mean, I think that they are working kind of on the stigma of it. Like, I feel like it is slightly less stigmatized than it was. But for sure, like I feel like a few years ago, it was like this uptick in all these people that were like mental health awareness, like, and it just became this thing that, you know, they, like you just said, they were able to make money off of.
A hashtag.
Which, exactly, which is really, really frustrating. Of course, not only just because, you know, for the people that are dealing with, you know, mental health, but it's such a problem. It's such a broken system. Like, we have so many people that have mental illnesses, and then even if they have insurance, aren't able to, you know, even afford the care that they need, you know, the help that they need. It's like major percentages of people that either don't know like the resources that are out there,
right,
don't have access to the resources that are out there because they don't have insurance, or like I just said, even if they do have insurance, there's a lot of insurances that don't cover mental health at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then so you're out here like, okay, well, you know, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I'm suicidal, I'm, you know, whatever it is that you've got going on, but I don't have any way to find help. I have nobody out here that's going to be able to help me. I have no funds to take care of it. So that's just, I want them to go back and fix the system.
Right.
And I think that will help a lot of what's going on. It won't completely fix everything, but like if we make it more available and realize that it is just as much of something that needs to be treated as a physical illness, it's just as important as someone going to the hospital because they're having a heart attack. Like, that's something that is very important and needs to be taken care of, and can be deadly.
Oh, for sure.
For a lot of people. So,
and especially
in this, taking it seriously.
Especially in this year, 2020.
And it's gone up. It's gone up.
And everybody that's watching this can understand why it's gone up. You know, with so much going on, like, you know, media. We got a freaking pandemic. We got politics. We got racial injustice. Our anxieties. Everybody's just through the roof. We need some great care. Everybody needs somebody to talk to. Everybody needs some type of affordable care, you know, or else, like, you know, it could be worst case scenario. And it's more than a hashtag to everybody here.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Well, and just to kind of touch on something that like Toddy said, that if like, it's weird if you look back at like 2003, 2004, like no one talked about mental health really until like 2006 when To Write Love on Her Arm started to get real big. It kind of started to become a conversation where people were like being more open about their depression and anxiety and suicidal thoughts and things like that, to where now it's almost this pendulum swing where over the last couple of years it's like trendy to have depression and have anxiety. And like, I remember seeing a video on Instagram of a girl that was like, I'm just so depressed, but I'll power through. And like, you could 100% tell, like, she was just doing that to get clicks and likes. And so that kind of undermines the whole message of like, there are legitimately people out here that don't want to get out of bed in the morning, or like are so anxious that they can't leave their houses. And we still very much have a system that, like she said, like, there's a lot of insurances that don't cover therapists or antidepressants or anti-anxiety medicine. And so you still have, like, even though it's so widely talked about, there's still a broken system to where people that need the help are still not able to get it. Like, sure, there's any number of support groups you can go to, and there's a ton of resources. But, like, at the end of the day, like, there's still a broken medical system that doesn't believe that, well, doesn't reinforce that mental health is a serious issue like any other kind of ailment. So,
and even outside of like insurance, I don't remember the exact numbers, but I learned this the other day. We don't have enough providers and just mental health workers out there in general to take care of the number of people that have mental health. Like,
sure,
you'll have like one psychiatrist per like 10,000 people, like, that need it in some states. So it's
and talking about like PTSD, for instance, like you said, like, people just kind of label that the soldier's ailment, which is, I mean, that stigma is even kind of starting to break a little bit. But there's still this stigma that, like, if you say you have PTSD, that you just need to kind of suck it up. Like you don't really have post-traumatic stress disorder. You just had a bad time of it. And there's so many people, like, and again, a lot of my frame of reference comes through the church. There's so many people that have had, like, terrible traumatic events, either through school or the church or through parents or any number of things that are legitimate PTSD cases that aren't being dealt with because of the stigma with that. So.
Yeah, I think you guys make really good points. Toddy, I mean, you're 100% right in the fact that at the end of the day, for a lot of people, it becomes financial. It's like a fiscal thing. Like, can you budget this in when you're not being covered by insurance? So, as Alex just now said, there are avenues. However, it's a strained system. Yeah. With mental illness and mental health and mental wellness and all of those things, I think people believe that there's an on and an off switch when really it's more like a volume dial, right?
Boy, I wish there was.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's on a spectrum, you know, and everybody, even people who aren't depressed, get sad, you know, and then depressed people who have clinical depression can be happy. So I think the important thing to realize is it's not a terminal illness. It's not like just because you have depression that you're going to suffer from depression for the rest of your life. There are medications to help regulate it. Talk therapy helps, just kind of opening up to people, you know, having a positive routine, like exercising, getting some fucking daylight, turning off your smartphone every once in a while. I know that kind of sounds cliched, but what you said a minute ago, Ian, is very true. Like 2020 has been difficult for people, but a lot of those people who are the most radical right now, that radicalization started happening before 2020 because we have kind of shut out the world to bring the world on a 6-inch phone close to our face, and then everything that happens in here has an effect on our own lives and our livelihood. And you see terrible things happening in the streets, and you see the worst kind of people having a platform to share hateful rhetoric, and it affects your soul. You know what I mean? Like you can't consume anything that there's not going to be a byproduct from. So it's almost like if you want to fix your own situation, you have to first acknowledge that, like, you can't fix everything. There's nothing that I can do that's going to fix all of the world's problems. You just have to realize that the world's problems aren't your burden to bear, and that when you go outside and you talk to your neighbor, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is usually not, are you pro or anti-mask? Do you support Donald Trump or fucking Joe Biden? It's not. That's the internet. That's noise. When in actuality, people are trying to help each other out. A lot of times people will talk to you like a human being. Like, it's not as divisive and as terrible as the media wants us to believe it is. And they continue to chip away at our mental wellness with hurricane threats that may or may not even hit the state, with the coronavirus, with the politics. Their whole thing is keeping us locked in, keeping us clicking, keeping us engaged. And the best way to do that is with fear and anger. And those two things will wear on your soul. So it's really good to give yourself some time away from that every once in a while.
Man, shout out to touch on,
just to touch on some stuff that Jeremy said, like, one of the biggest things to understand is it's not like mental health is not this just either you have it or you don't. Like, it's not like you have depression or you don't. Like, for me, for a long time, for like a good 4 or 5 years, it was very difficult for me to figure out where I stood, because like I see people that are depressed that like are sleeping 18, 20 hours a day, whereas like me, I 100% have depression, but I was getting up and going to work every day. And so like understanding that there's this scale of escalation where like you may have high functioning anxiety where you get a little nervous going into social situations, but that doesn't mean you're having a panic attack, versus someone who, like, you take like agoraphobics, for instance, literally go into panic attacks just thinking about walking out of their door. And so, and then again, you take someone, I'll use myself as an example, who I have pretty manageable mental health at this point. Like my depression and my anxiety is not real bad. But then you add in the onslaught of things that happened in 2020 where, okay, now we've got this life-threatening illness that we don't know anything about. And as soon as we kind of start to get our feet under us about that, then you have all of this racial injustice that's coming to light, and you have people that are really and truthfully they've been cooped up in their houses for months, and so then they just see this stuff, and so they have all this pent-up energy, which is, to me, I think is wonderful that the breaking point has kind of been hit where we're just not pushing it aside. But you add that to people's mental health, and then all of the stuff with the election, like the election is just out of whack. So you take something that's usually fairly manageable, and then you just keep adding things on top of it. And so people, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be someone who, before 2020, had crippling depression or crippling anxiety, and then now also have to deal with all of this on top of that. So, but again, just to kind of to score that up is like, one of the big understandings is like there are different levels of it, which I don't think is really spoken about a whole lot.
That's a good point.
I kind of want to touch on.
And I've seen like people get into this like competitive nature of like, oh, well, your depression's not as bad as my depression.
Yeah, that's stupid.
You went to work and I didn't leave my house for 2 days, so
Can't
your
speak
depression's
for everybody.
Yeah, it's not fair to. I mean, I don't feel like anybody should ever compare themselves to someone else. Like, oh, like I need to get over it because it's not as bad as like what this person is dealing with.
Yeah.
Like, no, like just because like maybe they are going through something really tough doesn't mean that you're not having a hard time. That's not fair to you and to your mental health and what you're dealing with, to just say, no, it's not as bad, I'm just going to ignore it, I'm going to get over it, or try to make yourself do that. When that's not what you need to handle.
Put into perspective, like if you went into a cancer ward and took someone that has stage 2 cancer and someone that has stage 4 cancer, you wouldn't be like, oh, your cancer is not as bad. Like that's asinine for us to think about saying to somebody. So to do that with mental health,
that's a very good example, man. That's as extreme as that is. It's a very good example. All right, let me move on to the last thing of the night, man. When it comes to mental health, or just like, getting through life, what are the movies or television shows that's helped you in your personal life when it comes to your depression or any anxiety or mental health that you got going on? We'll start with Jeremy on this one.
That's a really good question, dude. I like that. Never really thought about it in that context before, but I think like with comfort food, there's something in familiarity, right? Like I can always go back to the things that I loved as a kid and get something out of that. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I got my little retro console right there. It's 15,000 games from the Atari all the way through like the PlayStation and the N64. So it's got all the stand-up arcade games from when I was a kid. And like, there's just something about escaping and into familiarity. Like if I'm having a bad day, I could put on something like Jurassic Park and everything else just kind of melt away and me be there and experiencing that movie. And there's a lot like that for me. And then obviously, comedies, getting a good laugh will always make me feel a little bit better. And that kind of goes back to this idea of consuming and then what kind of energy you get from it. If you want to be in a better mood, and I love movies and I love television and I think they're a great escape. I guarantee you, if you put on music, especially something that you like, and you get it to a certain volume and you just let it wash over you, it's going to make you feel like 10% better, guaranteed, nothing else. Now, if you put on headphones and you go for a walk, and you're listening to music and it's sunny outside and it's October and it's like 75 degrees outside, that is perfection. So like, I feel like anything that brings you happiness that you've already seen is going to bring you happiness again. Where if you're feeling rotten and you watch something like Hereditary, maybe there's an element of like, hey, it could be worse. But then again, maybe it's like, oh my God, this is just too much for me. So that's kind of my take on it. It's less about movies that deal with mental health and more about just the vibe of the movie and how it hits me.
I want to comment on your music statement. Like, I agree with that, except like it depends on the music. Like, if it's Stevie Wonder or Michael Jackson, I'm always going to be in a great mood. But if it's like DMX, you better watch out if I'm in a bad mood. That might promote it.
Sure.
Abbas says that Mr. Robot is great dealing with mental health. I've not seen Mr. Robot, but I've heard good things. So we'll go to you, Alex. So what is some good content that you absorb when it comes to dealing with your depression and stuff?
So like when you and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, it got me thinking about like there's definitely two different lists. Like there's things that help me when I'm not where I need to be mentally. So like if I'm having an anxiety attack or if I'm having a depressive episode, there's definitely like a certain amount of or type of content that pulls me out of that.
Right.
Like I think about things like The Good Place. That's one of my go-to shows. Like
Good
if
one.
I just need to like sit back and feel good, that's a great show. New Girl is another show like that where I can sit back and laugh. And then like if we're talking about shows that have like helped me through my own issues with mental health, you guys are gonna laugh about this one, but I started watching this like right after I got out of the church because I used to do theater when I was in high school, and so like one of my friends told me I need to start watching Glee, and I was very much one of those kids that's like, no, it's just a bunch of like cover songs and kids being ridiculous and blah 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 blah. And so I think I had just like run out of things on Netflix, and so I started watching that. But like there's a lot more depth to that show than I think it gets a lot of credit for. Because I watched it from beginning to end because it just tackles all kinds of stuff like depression, anxiety. The fact that a show that came on in like 2008 was dealing with transgender, the narrative there, it just blew my mind. And then just another show that like helped me get through some shit. And I'm not really sure, like I wouldn't recommend this. You got to be very careful of your own mental stability. But when I was like having one of the worst depression episodes I've ever had, I watched all the way through Sons of Anarchy, and there was just something about like the guns and the violence and the whatnot that just like it helped me. I don't know. It helped me like find my will to fight against myself. And so
I thought you were going to say something like, my life is not as bad after seeing this. But no, I get what you're saying.
I mean, 100%. Like, my life is a fault compared to anything that happens in Sons of Anarchy.
Right.
Like, so, like, TV shows-wise, that's it. Movie-wise, I always go back to The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Nice.
A great escapism movie. If you just need, like, if you just want to get outside of your situation, I think I stumbled on that in a $5 bin or something. The Flash was in Glee. You are correct. There's a lot of Arrowverse characters or actors in Glee. But yeah, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is one of my favorite movies. And then Ready Player One is another one of mine because it just helps me like disconnect and lose myself in nerdy stuff.
I can see that.
So, yeah.
What about you, Toddy? Oh, did you have another one? I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I got a whole list of them, but those two are my go-tos.
Those are your go-tos? What about you, Toddy?
I kind of have to agree a little bit with like what Jeremy was saying. Like when you told me earlier today, like this was like the topic, and I was like, a TV show, a movie. Like, it's not that I don't use those, I guess, but I do like lean more into like the music side of things. That's something that like for me, like if I'm like, you know, really going through it, like I can get in my car, turn my music all the way up, and like, you know, kind of zone out and just like get into that vibe, and that definitely helps me a lot. And I mean, I know a lot of people like to use like uplifting music in movies and stuff like that. I'm not really that person. I don't want to watch a comedy when I'm upset. That's just not me. And that kind of goes for music too. Maybe if I listen to something that's a little bit more angry or depressing or whatever it is that I'm kind of in the mood for, and then I kind of like work myself out of it a little bit, then I can get into something a little bit more peppy.
Right.
But one of my like favorite songs, and for anybody who's heard this, they're gonna be like, why? I'm Sorry by Joyner Lucas is literally one of my favorite songs
Very
probably
good.
ever.
It's a song about a suicide.
Yeah, so it's like literally like 2 verses where it's about someone who does complete suicide, and then the other one is like someone like I think it's his brother's response to that happening.
Why? Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not gonna say like, hey, go like listen to this, especially like if you're not like in a good place, because for some people that's like not gonna work, and I totally understand that. For me, it's something where it's just like someone understands like how heavy it is and like how difficult it is, and like I know every single word, and I just get angry, and I just like yell every single word, and I'm like I could listen to it 20 times, and that'll help me like get out of it. It just gets like my emotions out.
A lot of stuff by Joyner Lucas is very deep like that.
Yeah,
so I get you.
And so that's definitely something that I do. That's when I'm like low. But when it comes to like movies and stuff, I don't think there's anything that I like specifically turn to that I can say is like helped me out of a slump. But
you're not much of a rewatcher like I am.
Yeah, yes, just it depends on what it is, I guess. I don't want to rewatch Endgame. But
again,
called me out. Okay, well, let's see. It brings me joy.
Not going to make me feel better, but that's just me personally. I know for some people that could be helpful, but for me, I'm just not into that. That's not or as into that.
Yeah.
So, but it could be like the smallest thing for me, and I don't know where I read this. It's probably on social media somewhere, but someone made this post that said, like, for people who deal with anxiety, they will frequently watch like the same movies or same TV shows for something that feels familiar to them, and something that like they don't have to sit there and wonder and like stress out about kind of what's going on. Even if you don't think that you're doing it, you're kind of subconsciously doing it.
For sure.
And I never really thought about it that way until I read that, and I was like, wow, like that makes sense. Like sometimes I'll just go back and turn on the same thing, even if I'm just going to sleep, just because like I don't have to sit there and think about like I have to watch this if I know what's going on. Like it's just something that's familiar to me that like I know and I'm comfortable with. And it could literally be like not an Oscar winning anything.
Yeah,
like there's this movie on Netflix called 6 Years, and no one has probably ever watched it, but it's something for me that I watched, and I was like, I like that, and I was comfortable with, and I would go back and turn it on and just watch it just because, or just for like the familiarity of it. Or The Great Gatsby, I would put it into my DVD player and leave it in there for like 3 weeks, and that was like all that I would really watch. So for me, it's just kind of more like, I think sometimes like about like the repetitiveness and like the familiarity of things more so than like just the feeling of it. So
I get you. I'm gonna give my answer. I do want to read some of these chats though. Abba, I believe, said something about The Dark Knight, which I can understand that. King of the Hill said Beautiful by Eminem, which is one of my favorite Eminem songs, by the way. That one is a very good one about depression and the things that were going on in his life at the time. Have you checked out Hello Future Me on YouTube? I have not, but a few mental health videos, a character film. I have to check that out. I'll put that on my list. Let's see. Yeah. Check out Joyner Lucas as an artist, man. He's really good.
ADHD, I love to listen to when I want to get hype. Like if I want to clean the house or something, that's like one of my go-tos.
What is it?
ADHD.
Hey, was that a band?
No, it's Lucas Joyner Lucas.
Oh, his whole album. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. Daredevil season 3. I've heard great. I've stopped at 2. I need to get at 3. What else we have here? I do too. I do that. The specific episode of Avatar. So he has one Avatar episode he watches repetitively. I watch or I'll play the soundtrack from Little Bear, and when I go through a depression. That's interesting. Joyner Lucas is dope. Joyner Lucas is very dope. Our Joker and King of Comedy in the conversation. I'm gonna say this. I love these movies, but they're probably bad for my anxiety. they actually they probably put my anxiety at a sky high, which I love. I love both of those movies. But
The Joker definitely deals with mental illness, though, in a very
Sure.
head-on way. I don't
Sure.
know if it's a positive or a negative
Yeah.
interpretation, but it definitely deals with mental illness.
when it comes to the topic, yes, I'll give you that. Hey, Kiana
Hi,
Pilson,
Kiana.
what's up, Kiana?
Yes, I totally agree.
Sometimes the people I rewatch things that helps me more in the content, more than content I'm usually watching. Okay, interesting. Shout out to Kiana, man. It's the first time I've seen her on the stream. So these are my picks. I love coming of age stories. I know I'm a grown man, and I'm way past middle school and high school. But like coming of age stories like Edge of 17, Moonlight, Superbad, Love Simon, Perks of Being a Wildflower, which she recently
That's one that
introduced
I
to
would
me.
watch.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Which does deal with mental illness. which is
It
probably
does.
one reason why.
I do suggest Perks of Being a
And the
Wildflower.
Wallflower deals
Wallflower.
real head on with mental illness. So
It's a great movie.
It's a very
and it's a
good
good
movie.
book too. I don't know if you've read the
I've
book.
not read the book.
that is one of those that you need to be aware of your own triggers, though, if you're going to watch, because it will
Yeah, for
it'll
sure.
take over the place if you're not careful.
For sure. I also got Boyhood. Lion King always puts me in a good mood because it's like at a time where like I was with my whole family. I was just a kid. It puts me in a very good place. Inside Out, not just Inside Out, but a lot of Pixar movies are subliminally really deep when it comes to your childhood and mental health. Like they got grown up messages in there as well. But I'd say Inside Out, when it comes to like depression and all that stuff, is a good one. I watched Curb Your Enthusiasm. Curb Your Enthusiasm was one that I rewatch. I rewatch all the time, at least once a year. I rewatch all the seasons. And if you don't know who it is, it's Larry David, the creator of Seinfeld. He's a very funny old man. I watch him to confirm that I'm not crazy. You know, some of the stuff that he goes through, his scenario stuff, I'm just like, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. So the incident that I had earlier today at the store, it wasn't just me. He was just a weirdo. And she said she brought up Endgame. Yes, I rewatched MCU movies, just superhero movies in general, man. They just uplift my spirits. But anything that puts me in a good place, especially like if I remember loving it from high school or middle school, I might bring myself to that time period that I was enjoying life. Rush Hour movies and the Friday movies that are very quotable. You know, just laughs that are still funny to this day. Chappelle Show as well.
Yeah.
I put Prison Break on here. Prison Break seasons 1 through 4. Don't even watch 5. Just throw that one out. But that one right there got me through a hard breakup. Like I was literally like crying my eyes out and just heartbroken for months. I binge watched that whole series. I was like, who is this bitch I was crying about? You know, it really just like put my mind out of that depression. So I always have respect for Prison Break. Other than that, I think and a newer one I will say is the Peanut Butter Falcon, which was a movie that came out.
Good.
It's a movie that came out last year with Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
That's about a guy that's on he's down on his luck and he meets this mentally handicapped kid in the woods and they form a relationship. Has a lot of heart. I do recommend that one as the most recent one that would probably that you can relate to when it comes to mental health or any depression in your life. Did I miss anything on here? Let's see. We got 29. I Can't Wait to Be King. Yeah, that's a good song, man. That song slaps. I just can't wait to be king. And let's see, the one that Scar does.
Be prepared.
Be prepared.
By the way.
What's that?
I said it was trash.
Oh yeah, be
It's like a
prepared.
spoken word.
Don't even watch it.
Yeah.
These songs supposed to be songs.
Abbott says Joker makes you feel more against society. I can understand that, but that to an extent, you know, we got to be civil in our society. We can't just be shooting people. So,
That's a reasonable thing to say.
Edge of 17 shows a realistic view of friendship. She didn't like Edge of 17 as much as I did. I loved Edge of 17. A movie where here we go. A movie by Chris Evans called Before We Go was amazing. I've never heard of this one. Have you guys heard of this one?
No, but before I go, I did want to say I love you guys very much. I appreciate you having me on.
Right on. We're about to wrap up anyway, man. But let me read this one real quick. Abbas, I brought up Joker. It wasn't to say it helped someone with self-negativity, but the movie brought the attention to it. Yeah, absolutely right. I agree with that. It does bring attention to it. So we're gonna wrap up right now. We're all gonna go. I'd like to thank Alex for joining me. This is the first time me and Alex has collaborated in almost 3 years. Of course, I guess Jeremy. We
Nice to meet you, Alex. Nice to talk to you, Toddy.
Nice to meet you, Jeremy.
And to the most beautiful girl in the world. We do this every Wednesday. Please come by next week. Hopefully, I'm gonna invite Alex, and probably I'm gonna try to invite Reggie. We'll see what happens. But hey, where can we find you guys on? I know Alex is kind of distant from social media, but like, is there a way we can contact you if anyone wants to talk to you?
I mean, you can find me. My most common social media is Instagram. It's just Alexander 2_Snow. And then I do a lot of poetry and writing there. And it's just Alexander Snow Poetry. So if you want to read that, that's available for you as well.
Right on, man. He's got some good work. This dude be writing his ass off, man. And Jeremy, where can we find you?
When you're not checking out my OnlyFans, check me out right there. Movies Are Terrible on YouTube.
Absolutely. Definitely check his OnlyFans out. It's worth the lot.
Yeah.
Holy crap. He's got a mole and a rash that's just like the size of freaking Montana. Thank you guys for joining us, man. Much love, peace, and chicken grease. Boom.